I just invented a new overlining lip hack. Start by pushing out your lips to the duck position, you know what I'm talking about, and start drawing over the edge of the lip. We're trying to make them look juicy and plump. Perfect the shape exactly how you want it and top up with some lip gloss. Smack that shit together and voila. Grand reveal please. Bitch, does look good. I'm never overlining my lips any other way. I need to trademark this. I love you guys, bye. I put on the diaper so that I could hide under my boyfriend's bed without having to get out. Disclaimer is not my story time, I was sending me on Instagram. I even took soft food with me so that he wouldn't hear me chewing. I knew he wouldn't be home, so I snuck into his dorm room. That's when I checked his entire room. I went through all of his clothes, even went through all of his dirty laundry just to smell them and make sure he didn't have anything in his pockets. Searched in between the mattresses and I found nothing. At this point, I was just looking for a sign of him having hooked up with somebody. I knew he was going to be coming home soon, so I snuck under the bed. It was pretty hidden underneath there because it's a huge bed. He came in by himself and started changing and went to take a shower. But he took his phone with him into the bathroom, so I didn't have a chance to check it. By the way, he thought that I had gone home to my parents' house, so he wasn't going to be hanging out with me at all. As he was getting ready, he put on cologne, and that's when I knew he was going to go look for another girl. A few hours later, he comes back and I'm still underneath the bed. And guess what? He's with a girl. The same girl I heard the rumor about. They come in there laughing and I can tell that they're clearly drunk. This girl goes to the bathroom and changes into lingerie. And then they started making out on the bed while I'm hiding underneath it. Part 3 is up. As my boyfriend is making out with this girl on his bed, I'm hiding underneath it. Suddenly she starts talking about how she's so happy they're finally a couple. How she's so happy he got away from me since I was such a crazy ex. Clearly my boyfriend had been poisoning me against her. That's when I realized I really couldn't blame the girl. My boyfriend had clearly told her that he had broken up with me and that now he was with her. My plan was to initially get out of the bed and surprise them, but instead I decided to wait. I managed to set up my phone while they were doing it on the bed, and I recorded the entire thing. After they finally finish, she leaves. Boyfriend goes to take a shower and I finally come out underneath the bed. And I sit on his bed. And the look on this man's face when he comes out of the bathroom, priceless. But the best part is that I was filming the entire thing. At this point, I was still wearing the diapers because I had been under his bed for 2 days. I'm obviously looking rough. Then I tell him that I've been under his bed for the entire 2 days. He started calling me crazy and he tried to kick me out. Then I told him that he needs to break up with the girl and come back with me. If he didn't, I would send the video around to the entire school, including his coach, who is the girl's dad. I got him pretty good. So now he's still my boyfriend, although it's forced, to get back at him somehow. I'll keep you guys updated. Bye. I finally told my dad that my mom had been cheating on him for months. And when my mom came home, my dad slapped her. And he pushed her up against a wall. I saw the whole thing go down. Of course, I got in between my dad and my mom. Obviously, my mom was totally confused. She didn't know why he was attacking her. Finally, my dad tells her that I caught her cheating and I told him about it. My mom looks at me with tears in her eyes and apologizes. Then she started walking to her room and said she was moving out. My dad went after her and tried to hit her again. I pushed him off of her and told him that if he didn't stop, I would call the cops. And my dad said, "What do you expect?" And that I should be on his side. But I couldn't let him put his hands on my mother. My mom and I finally locked ourselves in their room and she started packing her stuff. She apologized again and told me that she was sorry she put me in the middle of this. My dad was so angry, he actually grabbed a knife and started stabbing the door. Called the cops and my mom and I actually ended up moving out together. This whole thing made me realize how awful my dad is. Mom told me that he had been aggressive with her before. My dad keeps coming after my mom too. I think we're gonna have to get a restraining order. I kind of regret having told him. What should I do? My husband got my best friend pregnant and now is forcing me to raise the child. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. About a year ago, I started getting suspicious that my husband was having an affair. So naturally, I started investigating. I went through his phone when he was asleep, but I didn't find anything. That's when I realized that I needed to start following him. And when I did is when I found out who he was cheating on me with. Turns out it was my best friend. My best friend had just gotten a divorce with her husband at the time. And she told me that she was trying to have fun with as many men as she possibly could. I just never thought it would occur to her to sleep with my husband. For a full week, I followed my husband and he would see my best friend every single day. Sometimes they would meet up at her house since her husband left her the house. Sometimes they would end up at cheap motels. Of course, I started taking pictures on my iPhone to keep track of everything in case I needed to get a divorce. Come to find out, she was pregnant with twins. Part 2 is up. My husband got my best friend pregnant and is now forcing me to raise the kids. Disclaimer, is not my story time. After realizing that my husband was cheating on me with my best friend, I confronted him and her together. Pretended I was having a little dinner party and I invited her over. Really did make a nice dinner though. They did not suspect a thing. Comes into the house and gives me a big hug. Right then and there, I hand her my phone so that she could see all of the pictures I took of her and my husband making out outside of motels. Then she looks at my husband and says, "What did you say?" What did you say? He didn't even bother to look me in the face. Handed me back my phone and simply left the house. Then I'm left alone with my husband. Start confronting him and then he tells me that he made a mistake and that he was just bored with our relationship and that he loved me. He manipulated me so much that night that I ended up forgiving him. He promised he would never see my best friend again. And guess what? My bestie kept looking for my husband. One night she came over and told me that she needed to see him. I did not let her into the house and she started yelling. That's when she finally says, "I'm pregnant with twins." Apparently she had been pregnant for 3 months and didn't tell anybody. And my husband was happy about it. That's when he asked me if I would be willing to raise the kids. Part 3 is up. My husband got my best friend pregnant and is now forcing me to raise the kids. Disclaimer is not my story time. After she told us that she was 3 months pregnant, my husband was so happy. He told her that he would take care of everything and not to worry about the medical bills. As soon as my best friend left our house, my husband turns to me and says, "You and I are gonna raise those kids without her." That's when I said he was crazy. I was not about to raise the kid that he had with my best friend. That's when he said that if I didn't, he would divorce me and marry my best friend. I do have to say, I am still madly in love with my husband. We've only been together for 3 years. He was my dream man when we got married, and he still kind of is my dream man, even though he did cheat on me with my best friend. When he threatened me with that, I said okay. The next 6 months, my best friend moved into our house while she was pregnant. My husband and I served her hand and foot, and in some weird way, my best friend and I became best friends again, even though she was having my husband's babies. Also turns out that she was having twins. During the pregnancy, my husband told her that she could stay to live with us and we could all raise the kids together. To be honest, I didn't mind the idea. My husband's real plan was to try to get rid of her, so that we could move away and she wouldn't be able to find us. But my best friend was looking forward to having her babies. Once she gave birth, my husband decided to bring her back to our house with the babies. Exactly a week later, he kicked her out of our house, and he offered her $50,000 to give the babies to us. And she agreed. So now I'm stuck raising the twins by myself. My husband is always away for work. My best friend never even comes around to look at her kids. My husband told me that he doesn't think we should have our own kids. He also promised he wouldn't cheat again, but I don't know what to believe. What should I do? Story time about how I hooked up with a police officer who arrested me, and now I think he's stalking me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm just a little bit of a party girl. I'm always getting myself into trouble, and somehow I've never gotten arrested until last week. My friends and I constantly go out and get super drunk. Fortunately, when I get drunk, I tend to get a little bit aggressive. So if you're like me, do not drink. My friend group consists of 5 girls, including me. 3 of them are super chill and funny when they get drunk. The other 2 turn into raging bitches when we get drunk. So half of the group is always trying to fight somebody, and the other half is trying to calm the situation. So I'm the one that's always trying to start a fight. All of this went down last week. My friends and I are all standing at the bar, and this one girl behind me starts pushing her way through. She is literally pushing me and my 2 other friends out of the way. Of course, I instantly flew into a rage because I'm already drunk. Without saying anything, I push the girl and she falls on her ass. Her friends come at me, start punching me and pulling my hair. So I started kicking them with my boots. Before I knew it, it was a huge fight between 5 people. Long story short, the police comes and they try to arrest us. Well, the cop that arrested me was really hot, so I flirted with him the whole time. Part 2 is up. Story time about how I hooked up with a police officer who arrested me and now he's stalking me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. That's when the super hot officer starts arresting me. So I decided to start flirting with him. I mean, why not? He put me in his police car and he started driving me to the station. On the way, I started asking him if he was single. And he actually flirted back. We actually had a pretty good conversation even though I was drunk. Spent 4 hours in the police station and they ended up calling my brother to get me out. Guess what I did? I told my brother to leave me at the police station because I was going to try to hook up with the police officer. My brother got so mad at me. He called me stupid and he left. That's when I went back into the police station and I started flirting with the police officer again. At this point, it was 5 in the morning and I was really hungry. So I asked him to take me out to breakfast and he did. We went to a cute diner. It was like a freaking movie. And then afterwards, we hooked up in his car. He did everything you could possibly imagine in his car. Here's the thing. My plan was to never see this man again. He took me home and he asked me for my number. I politely declined. Later that day, I go to class because, by the way, I'm in college. I actually saw this man driving by. So I wasn't sure, but then I realized it was him. Later on that night, I'm home and I'm about to take a shower. There's a knock on my door and I go open it. Guess who it is? Part 3 story time about how I hooked up with the police officer who arrested me and now he's stalking me. Claim is not my story time. I sent me on Instagram. Hear the knock on the door and I go to open it. And it's the police officer. Mind you, I'm in a towel about to take a shower. When I opened the door, I didn't say anything. Just staring at him like, what do you want? And he said, can I come in? And I said no. He came in anyway. He sat down on the couch and just stared at me. Then he asked me why I hooked up with him if my intention was not to ever see him again. I told him that I was simply just trying to have fun with him and that was it. Then he talked for 10 minutes about how he and I would make a great couple and how much in common we have. That alone was a huge red flag. He met me when I was drunk fighting with people at a bar. I mean, how could he want a relationship with me? And he said something that sent chills down my spine. He said, you look great in baby blue. I instantly realized that I was wearing baby blue underwear. He was watching me minutes before while I was getting undressed to take a shower. He tried to kiss me, but I pulled away. I told him that if he followed me again, I would report him. He laughed and said, you think that's gonna work? And he begged to take me out on a date. I said yes to going on a date because I feared that he was gonna try to R-word me. I'm going on a date with him in a few days. What should I do? How do I prepare for this? I need to somehow make him hate me. What should I do?